this quantum field and this language of God is how I put it, where let's just say you're surrounded by this energy matrix that just flows around you, through you. I mean, it's amazing how nature just has an answer for everything and a cure if we just look deep enough. At a core essence, it's like, look, hey, we're spiritual beings having a human experience. And we can feed the spirit and the soul a lot, and the flesh will always follow. I've learned this. But at the same time, we also need to keep that like mindset of, hey, I'm on this planet, I'm in this form, this flesh and bones, and it also needs to be nourished with something that is vibrationally connected to that.
So I think perfectly planned by the universe, today's topic is talking about earthing as a heal for free modality. I love that. This topic is obviously very near and dear to my heart as well, because the concept of earthing is very much about Mother Nature, and I have a personal love for flowers and the power of Mother Nature and how it activates our own superpowers within. So I also find it a little bit interesting that we have a Blossom Bliss mini mantra word bar necklace that actually has the mantra on it: I am grounded, I am present, my heart is open, bliss. So I think that one fits in really well with today's episode, and I might talk a little bit more about that later, but definitely stay tuned until the end, because there'll be a special promotion code for the mini mantra word bar necklaces to help you shift and change that energy within and bring the high vibe words and your intention of close to your heart. I should also mention that if you're a new listener to the show and you want to hear more about my life journey stories and how I gave up high heels, designer suits, and the luxury high-rise living for flip-flops, helmet hair, and the beautiful rice fields of Bali, you can get all the scoop, along with how I became a flower whisperer. I get lots of questions about that when you listen into some of my first few episodes that I actually did and launched on the Voice America Network. But now all my episodes are available on iHeartRadio or Spreaker or any of the syndicated platforms that you find easiest to listen to. So the show will continue to focus on an hour of empowerment, and I'll be asking my guests to share their life journey lessons and pearls of wisdom that they've learned along the way, living their passions and purpose. However, I think the biggest shift of the show will be that we focus on how we can all be pollinating the planet with love together. So I'd like to introduce my guest today. Step Sinatra is an entrepreneur, winemaker, spiritual teacher, and adventurer of life. His mantra is "Giving is Living," and he has dedicated his life to raising the consciousness and vibration of the planet. Featured in the 2014 documentary Heal for Free, now exclusively on Gaia, Step shares his story and solutions for overcoming a 1% chance of survival. His purpose is to help others heal, find their natural power, and live a life of dreams and abundance. In 2004, Step started a spiritually minded and organic wine company out of Napa Valley called Free Spirit Wine. He's also the founder of Grounded.com, a longtime site dedicated to sharing the benefits of earthing. He is currently working on the book Heal for Free and spends most of his time in Baden, did I say that right, Germany, and has recently launched healing retreats in Europe. So Step, welcome to the show. I'm super excited to have you here today.
Oh, great to be here, Beth. Really excited. Congrats on the PhD offering. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, I love it. And I didn't think people were going to be like really believe in my earth school and metaphysics, but I guess, those things really exist out there in the world. So yeah, you can call me Dr. Bell from now on, but yeah, it's good thing. Well, I always like to talk about how the universe aligns me with my guests. I think it's really interesting with you because I happened to run across your documentary about grounding, and I was just like, I know that I'm going to meet this person and we're going to have a conversation. I was absolutely fascinated by grounding. So I think part of it is that I just have this incredible appreciation now for Mother Nature and the energetic matrix that it has and how it can help activate us in so many ways, of course for healing, but also just for raising our consciousness. So I can't wait to hear the details of your story because I don't know all of them and I can't wait to share them with the listeners. So let's kind of jump in and tell us a little bit about yourself and what you did before and how you got to where you are.
Perfect. All right, love to. First of all, I got to say, well done on just listening to your intuition and knowing that we would connect at some point, right? That's just the universe putting everything in flow so that it's divinely orchestrated. And that's, one of my core beliefs of just kind of being, in surrender and being a instrument of service to humanity in any way we can. And coming from that space and that open heart, when it's so easy just to get, pulled into the body and the distractions and everything else in life. But that being said, I'll try to make it quick on the bio because, everybody's got a story, and I never want to bore anybody with the story or show any ego. But there is some relevance to it. And the story, creates the message and the learning. And we all have our own, divine, beautiful path. I look back on all these moments and I say, why was that happening? Whatever. Well, I'm like, wow, it gets you to the place right here, right now. Mm-hmm. And that's the magic. And when I meditate, which I do a lot, and like you mentioned the matrix, and I like to call it the quantum field, universal field, which is really just synonymous for the scientific word for God these days, my opinion. I prefer God. But getting back to the story, should I begin early on or?
Well, yeah, I think, I don't know that much about your backstory, but I know that you had something to do with Wall Street and you were in a big career and New York City. And yeah, the bright lights of the city were definitely flashing through you at one point in your life. So I don't know, maybe start there. Or if there's something from childhood, that's fine too.
Let's go into the Wall Street bit because I think we share a similar story, of that, American programming and everything else. So I grew up in New England, classic programming of, hey, success equals money. You have to be somebody, you have to go to the right school, this, that, and the other, where intuitively, even as a kid, it didn't really resonate with me. I'm a Pisces. I like to, sense intuition. But I got into Wall Street right out of college, and I knew it was my destiny at that point. Like there was, you have a few moments in life when this is what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And I could have taken some banking jobs like my roommates are all investment bankers, 8 of us from college, moved to New York City, set up shop, did our whole thing. And I went into trading. I worked for a small hedge fund on Wall Street, literally on 110 Wall Street. And it was a dream come true for me. I got to trade stocks with a high amount of leverage. I had a lot of freedom, what I could do, when I could come in, everything else like that. And I went in there. And it was disastrous in the beginning. It was just absolutely awful. But like anything else, I maintained the faith. Over these years of the Wall Street thing where, like you, hey, living the life of great clothes, shopping at Xenia, super high cell phone bills. Literally they were like $10,000 a month. So that's how much I was on the phone back then.
Wow.
And we can talk about EMF later. So that's a whole thing. But I was in such this amazing magic of flow on Wall Street. And I loved what I did. I was passionate about it. But yes, my sole purpose at that time was to make money, period, for myself and maybe for this firm, right?
Yeah.
And I knew then that this wasn't the right vibration, but I knew it would lead to other things. So the magic was when I was, sitting in front of 9 computer screens. I'd bring an extra shirt to work because I'd sweat through it by noon.
Wow.
The stress was just off the charts, having 50 to 100 million literally going at all moments and being on 2 phones at once, handling everything around me. But it was absolutely incredible that I could handle all this. My nervous system was in flow. And something would operate through me where the point where I knew exactly what to do, when to buy a stock, when to sell a stock. And I'd come home at the end of the day sometimes being like, how did that happen? Just in shock.
It makes me think of the movie Limitless.
Oh, love that movie. Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I didn't mean to derail you, but yeah, no, I get it. You're in the energy, you're in the flow, you know what you're doing, you're feeling good about it, but you also know that there's something more.
Yeah, you nailed it. But without the pill, the pill is God, right?
Right. Well,
yeah.
Yeah, whatever you want it to be. Yeah.
Yeah, whatever you want it to be, in my opinion. So, yeah, I'm in this flow, and it's just absolutely mind-boggling. But I stay with it, and I go with it. And after a period of a few years of just getting 3 hours of sleep a night, eating massive dinners, living that high lifestyle, spending hundreds of thousands a year, and just toxic on all levels. Definitely no drugs. We were never into that stuff. I want to put that out there because there was nothing more important than being razor sharp every morning to take on the day. Every day I could walk in there and it could be my last day of work, because I could lose everything. That's how it operated. So came out of that, learned so much about life, but also was sick after 3 or 4 years of all the stress, the EMF, and I knew it. So this is another divine moment, is September 1, 2011. I just get the incredible hit to go to Colorado and change my whole life. I'm like, okay. So I leave on September 1st. I spend 10 days in Boulder, Colorado. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to live here. I end up buying an apartment, leasing another place to work again, and flying back on the 10th at midnight.
Spirit speaks, and if you listen and you push through the fear, big things happen. So then you literally like just took off and moved to Colorado.
Yeah, because September 11, 2001 was obviously, we know what happened.
Right.
I woke up to that morning, 4 blocks away at my girlfriend's apartment at the time. And I'm just like, wow, this is life changing. I'm looking at these buildings on fire and I'm like, these are coming down and it's time to leave on every level and change my whole entire life. Let's go.
Wow.
So that's what happened. And then I was on this just massive health journey the next, let's say, decade or so. I had all the resources from Wall Street and I got into everything. I had the free time. I had the resources money-wise. Before biohacking even came along, I was doing it all. I mean, everything.
Wow. Yeah.
From injecting myself with seawater to bee venom to checking out every clinic around the world, buying all sorts of energy machines, you name it.
Have you been to Bali?
Yes.
Okay, you have. All right. I just was we do a lot of these things here, and I wasn't sure if you tapped into not only the energetic matrix of Bali, but all of the modalities here. I was just curious.
Oh yeah, I love it. And side story is, Gilman, I think she wrote that book, and I loved it. I really did at the time, and that inspired me to check it out and come over there and drink some jamu and learn that whole piece, and it was really nice.
Yeah, fun.
So this is where the inflection point happens, and everything leads up to that. But after, let's say, 6, 7, 8 years of just watching my health completely deteriorate from being 185 pounds, Superman on Wall Street, could do anything, whatever I wanted, but also living a life of ego, and then having it just wither away from me physically. Like every year I would just drop another 15 pounds, no matter what I ate, no matter what I did, and I was sick. I was not well. So it culminated in, I spent 3-4 weeks at Hippocrates and spent another 25, 30 grand on some other thing, checking it out. I went in there at 128 pounds.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I was really sick. 3.5 weeks later, my father comes and gets me and he picks me up and he literally falls over when he sees me, because at that point I'm 95 pounds, right? Wow. And I'm 6 feet tall.
Wow.
But at the same time, I'm in trust. I'm believing everything is okay because I'm elevated spiritually. And that was my path over these years. I was really just spending most of my time in meditation and doing, everything from pranayama, yoga, whatever I could do until my body started to completely shut down. So after I tried everything and done everything, exhausted lots of resources and stuff like that, my father picks me up. He knows I'm in rough shape and he's a physician. He takes me immediately to the hospital. I'm in liver failure, kidney failure, and pancreatic failure all at once.
Oh my goodness.
And the doctors there go, wow, we don't know what's happening. We have no idea. My dad goes, okay, great. Who do I know that can save my son right now?
Yeah.
So we fly to Dallas and we spend a few days at Bill Ray's clinic, who at that time, he was running one of the top clinics for all sorts of mystery illness, whatever's happening, right? And Bill Ray and my father are friends, and he checks me in and he's like, wow. He's like, I don't know what's happening, but you got to save your son here.
Right.
So Bill, being an amazing guy himself, tries to get an IV in me so at least I can get some nutrition, which we had been doing. And at that point, I had kept dropping weight. I was probably like 87 pounds, and Bill couldn't even get the line he was trying to get a pick line in.
Yeah, yeah.
So here's my dad, and this is when I had just an absolute moment of connecting with the divine, and it was always getting deeper, was my dad, without any gloves, anything, I'm bleeding. He's able to get a line in me and literally feel nutrition all of a sudden hit my system. I'm like, wow, I take a breath. I'm like, wow, I'm going to live. We're all crying. Like, it's just super emotional. And my dad was a rock star when it came to doing pacemakers. So, karmically, we fulfilled something great there. And at this point, I still needed massive help. So we get flown back out to Connecticut. There's one bed available in this one hospital with this one doctor in the country who does this special TPN, this total protein nutrition, to keep you alive when you're this thin and shut down and everything else, and you can't take food by mouth anymore. You just, nothing's working. And you got to look at that as, wow, the universe set this up.
One bed left just for you. Wow. It's not a bed that you want to have your name on, but it's good that it was available. Wow. So they get you in, and what happens next?
So they get me in, and this doctor looks at me and he goes, you got a 1% chance of living through the night.
Through the night? Through the night?
Through the night.
Wow.
Yep, through the night. And that was like, whoa. But I could feel, I mean, I knew it. I could almost feel myself going, like crossing the other side. And I had a moment right around this time when I had that voice come in, which was unmistakably God, in my opinion. And God says to me, literally, this is what the film Heal for Free is about. Do you want to be here? Wow. Never forget how amazing this was. And I'm saying to myself, like, wow, do I want to be here?
Yeah, it gave me goosebumps when you said that. It makes me emotional. But yeah, so, and what was your response to yourself?
Well, there was like a little pause because I'm in this room and there's 8 doctors in white coats surrounding the lead doctor. And they're all getting an education on this young man, me, who's literally about to die or survive. And my parents in the room, my family's in the room, everybody's crying. And I'll get emotional just talking about it.
Yeah.
And I'd signed, the lawyers were there. I'd signed, all my assets away to my brother and sister, and I was ready to go. But something happened where this was the inflection point. I felt this wave of love. I'll cry now just feeling it.
Yeah.
I felt this wave of love literally just rushed through my whole body and consciousness, exploding and opening my heart like the most kundalini you could ever experience. Wow. And unquestionably, it was, yes, I want to be here. And up until that point, I knew that my spirit just didn't really want to be in this world. It wanted to be somewhere else. It wanted to create something else. It didn't like this human container, this human form. But God said, okay, you have a greater mission. I could feel it at this moment. And then I went through that, and I knew I would live because God said, the next thing it said, okay, if you stay, it's going to be hard at first, but then it'll be great. And oh my God, for the next 30 to 40 days in that hospital, absolutely brutal. From catheters in me, and I mean I'm a man, not the right spot, and things that you would, just really, really tough to get me back going. But I had this amazing faith and trust, but also the mental attitude and picturing what I wanted, right?
And what happened with your family? Because, that is just really an amazing story. It's not necessarily one of those journeys that you wish on a lot of people, but to have that level of kundalini run through you and to feel that divine love. Was there anything that your family around you was experiencing as well? Were they able to witness it, or did you feel like it was more self-contained to you?
They could definitely see that something had happened, but it was kind of like this essence afterwards, right? As I got better, because they were miracles. Full-blown miracles where, let's just say, at 83 pounds, they'd have to keep the room at 90 degrees. I was so cold. Even they put a sheet on me. It felt like a ton of bricks, just excruciating pain from a sheet. Right.
Yeah.
So this is why I just have so much compassion for anybody that goes through any healing crisis or in the hospital or whatever, because those situations can be really, really hard, and especially when you're not well. Somebody can bring a cell phone in, or my mom, it'd be on the phone, and I could feel the energy of a cell phone, 8 feet away, or my intuition was so explosive, I could feel when my dad was walking up the stairs. It was incredible. The miracles is kind of what they witnessed, and this is once again my father being a doc. He had a personal transformation because within a few days I was standing again, blew him away.
Right.
And I'm in this mode of faith and trust. And I'm like, wow, this is really cool. But I'm holding strong. All the physical pain I'm enduring all the crazy therapies that they want to do. I'm just holding my mind completely steady on what I want and visioning myself traveling again, going to the bathroom on my own again, walking, talking, the simple things, and they would happen quickly. Right. So there was this something running through me, and it was amazing. So then, long story, we'll keep moving.
Well, let me ask you one quick question on this, because I mean, your situation was really dire, and I get that. You're facing death's door, and you're actually feeling your life force energy like dissipating dramatically. And then you're feeling this surge. And I see this happen so often, not your specific situation, but that we have to call ourselves to get really sick or go really, really low. What do you think for your life's journey? Why did you call yourself to have such a dramatic downturn before you could make the upturn, if you will?
Oh, great question. Yeah. I mean, I think some of it's definitely karmic for sure. The other part is I'm the kind of guy where people can tell me 100 different things about stuff, but unless I learn it myself and really get it at my core, I won't make that change.
Are you trying to tell us you're stubborn? Is that what you're trying to tell us?
I'm stubborn, but I have to learn from mistakes. And I'm an extreme guy. I'm either one end of the spectrum or the other. So I need to get that complete knock over the head to have it so blatantly obvious that there is a higher power at work, and that's how I'm going to live my life from here and on. And that this material world is a complete illusion and everything else like that, or else I would have never gotten it. I mean, seriously.
Right. No, I get it. I totally get it.
But, the simple thing here too is for, it's like people, and we all do this in a way. It's like, when do you really pray? Well, you pray when you're down and out and you're sick most of the time, right? Or something's wrong, or you're having a major crisis. Yeah.
Yep.
But what if you actually prayed all the time, or when you felt great?
Yeah, exactly. So tell us now. So you started to say, I think the first 30 to 40 days was really difficult, but then did something switch, or was it just a gradual over time? You just started feeling better and better and better.
I progressed pretty quickly from 83 pounds to like 130 within the 30, 40 days. And 40 days was really interesting because that was the same amount of time, Christ spent in the wilderness. Mm-hmm. And also they wouldn't let me take food by mouth, as I was only getting this nutrition IV. But after 30, 40 days, I can't remember the exact number of days, my first piece of food, you ready for this, Beth?
What was it?
Was a priest walks in and he offers me communion.
Oh, goodness. Wow. Real wine in communion?
Yeah, but without the wine, just like the little wafer, wafer bread,
Yeah.
And of course I'm gluten-free, and I'm really like particular about what I eat and everything. I'm like, I don't want to have my first food be gluten, in my mind. And I'm just like, come on, let go. So it was a magical experience of the priest just come in, bless me, and give me the body of Christ as my first food after 30 some odd days.
Wow. That's a great story. What happened then? How did you feel when this experience took place?
I was ready to live. I was ready to give back. I was just like craving to serve, in any way that I could. And had so many ideas in the hospital of like, let me just go around the world and just give, this is before free hugs, like free hugs to people, whatever. I just want to share my open heart as much as I can right now. Like, it was beautiful.
But then you got to this incredible healing modality. And so far you've been pretty much in medical centers and connected to tubes and on beds. So you haven't been able to really interact with the outdoors, right?
Exactly. You nailed it.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's what I was craving. I just had this insanely intuitive hit, I can say that language, to connect with the earth. Right. And this is around the time where my father was starting to write the book Earthing as well. It actually prefaced that. It was kind of interesting.
Well, yeah, I mean, you guys are just tapping into the collective consciousness there about earthing, and you're grabbing onto it. Now you're literally like craving to go outside and like be one with Mother Nature. Is that what I'm getting?
Oh, you yeah, of course. I mean, there's nothing worse than hospitals, and this is where I'd love to help people too. Is like, you got to get out of a hospital. Those, in my opinion, they can kill you. Really, it can really hurt you. And I still deal with some ramifications of some of the things that happen there because they can be so severe.
Right.
I actually, I was always connected to an IV, and I snuck out of the hospital one time, went down the elevators, out the front door, just to get a ray of sunlight in my cornea, and just to feel the fresh air. And it was like tears of joy, like just so thankful and state of gratitude for that moment, and I'll cry again now. Just thinking about it because that's, just having Mother Nature touch me with a ray of sunlight. Like I couldn't have been more thankful for anything else in my life. And then, security grabs me and brings me back in. I'm like, okay, I got to get out.
I'm getting another really big idea, which I'm not going to say right now for you, that I think you're probably going to do at some point in your life. But you talked about being really intuitive when you were in the bed and you could like pick up on energies of phones and people walking up and all that stuff. So when you, maybe this comes later, but when you walked outside and you got that connection to that ray of light and you felt that gratefulness, did you start to feel that you were able to get more and more hits from Mother Nature and the energetic matrix outside? Because you're already so intuitive at that point.
Absolutely. Yeah. My message was get in nature, get on the ground, get in the grass, and you'll get there real soon.
Yeah.
Yeah. You completely got it. And I was having visions of just, backpacking in, Glacier National Park and exploring again. And I knew I had to connect. So,
well, I want to just throw in one thing here. And I don't normally do this in the show because it really is all about you, but I live in Bali, Indonesia for a reason, specifically in Ubud. And I think the point that you're making is such a good one and people gloss over it. And it's that there is this power of Mother Nature, this energetic matrix. It's available to everyone at all times. And it's constantly, I don't want to say screaming our names exactly, but it's here and it's waiting for us. So I love your story because it does bring us back to like, why do we have to make it so challenging to actually get these really basic things of being grateful for a ray of light, and feeling the love. And so, yeah, I love your story. This is amazing. Although it's never fun to hear about how you had to get there exactly, but it is all part of the divine plan. So continue on, but I'm on pins and needles waiting to hear more and more about how this whole grounding thing and earthing thing came out because it's an amazing, amazing thing. I'm really interested to hear more from you how you started to see this matrix unfold, like literally right in front of your eyes.
Yeah, thanks, Beth. And I got to tell you, like,
maybe I should say under your feet. I don't know.
Under my feet, and we're really on the same page here with this matrix. And I love how you describe it and pollinating the planet with love piece, because that's what I was getting at. With the heart opening and the love and really sharing that. I mean, that's just beautiful. That's nature. It's all of this is nature in a way, and that's the vibration that we need.
Yeah.
And at a core essence, it's like, look, hey, we're spiritual beings having a human experience.
Mm-hmm.
And we can feed the spirit and the soul a lot, and the flesh will always follow. I've learned this. But at the same time, we also need to keep that like mindset of, hey, I'm on this planet, I'm in this form, this flesh and bones, and it also needs to be nourished with something that is vibrationally connected to that.
Yep.
The matrix is beautiful. And I would get these like awarenesses and hits, as I'm on the ground, and I could feel my nervous system relax and be peaceful. Now it's like, this is how I sense it, right? It's like this quantum field in this language of God is how I put it, where let's just say you're surrounded by this energy matrix that just flows around you, through you in every way. And it's almost impossible to picture this except really in your mind, and everybody can have their own kind of image of it. And I suggest that. For me, it's this kind of like infinity universal symbol that comes in and out of my heart in like this 3-dimensional way. And I'm literally pulling in the energy from around me on the planet. And that's the quantum field, universal field. And it's also the mathematics again, which is like what you see on the Romanesco cauliflower or on a cactus or the seashell, right?
Yep.
The Fibonacci sequence.
Fibonacci, yep.
And how even bees can fly. I mean, they use this, I mean, it's amazing how nature just has an answer for everything and a cure if we just look deep enough, right?
Yeah. Well, one of the stories I tell a lot it's a tiny story, but it was so impactful for me. When I learned why bees go to flowers, do you know why bees go to a flower? What attracts them?
Tell me. I want to know.
I thought it was the color. I thought it was maybe the smell or whatever, but the flower is giving off electrical impulses and the bee is picking up these impulses from the hairs on its leg. So I love to tell the story because it just shows how interconnected everything is. So I stopped shaving my legs and I'm hoping the flowers will speak to me in a new way. No, I didn't. It's a joke, but it is really interesting. I mean, the bees really do this, but about me not shaving my legs was a joke. It does talk about just how we're so interconnected. And I think, thinking about flowers again, we give flowers for everything. We give flowers for birth, for death, for celebrations. Why? Because they do bring in this energetic feeling, and we walk into places, right? And we go, oh, this feels good. Or we say, oh, this doesn't feel good. So I think everyone has the ability to really get what's happening energetically. But I think to your point, a lot of people aren't necessarily appreciating what they can refuel themselves with from Mother Nature. Like everyone's still thinking that they're separated from it somehow.
Yeah, and I love this topic about the bees, honestly, because I think we could dork this out for another whole other session.
Yeah.
And here I am, I'm eating honey as we speak, by the way. It's one of my favorite foods. Have you ever kept bees?
No, I have not.
Okay.
I will one day. I have a whole big idea behind that because we do donate money for saving the bees with our jewelry we have bee charms, and so there's a whole thing around that. And but we'll talk about that another show.
Another show, because that it's just so wild. Even the way they fly is in an infinity system, and they use the energetics like you talked about. And when I was in Napa, I had some bees, and it's incredible.
Well, so you've basically miraculously healed yourself. You have, through the process, understood the divine in really literal ways, and you've seen the energetic matrix of Mother Nature. You've been called to go outdoors. And then what inspired the documentary that you did? Because that was just an incredible piece of work. I think that just showed so much about this connection to Mother Nature.
Yeah. The reason I gave such a detailed story in a way was because it sets it up for all this, right? But also that message of sheer empowerment of hey, I tried everything. I spent all the money I had. Mm-hmm. I saw every top doctor in the world that I could see because I had, a father connected and the resources. But where did I get?
Yeah.
Sicker. Anybody takes anything away from this, you can heal yourself. Anything is possible. And it's all in the mind, and also connecting with that higher power beyond yourself. And at a quantum level, you can restructure your cells, your DNA, everything. It's completely possible. It takes a lot of faith and trust to get out of our programming, but we can do it.
Yeah.
So
what inspired you to do the documentary that you did?
Steve Kroschel, he had created this first documentary called The Grounded. And he was in contact with us and my dad. And at that time, I was building Grounded.com. And he wanted to produce another film. And he had heard about my story, and he was really wanting to say, hey, let's put this in a movie and so forth. But he really wanted to do a lot more about EMF, electromagnetics. And at the time, because that's what we believe kind of caused a lot of my illness and precipitation, something that I've been into too for a very long time. So my father and I, around this time, were like, was this something we want to get involved with around EMF? And I just had to hit hey, we're going against a huge $1 trillion conglomerate. And this is around the same time that many doctors were kind of taken out in a way.
Yeah.
And I said, Dad, I want to protect you here in a way. I love you. You're the best guy in the world. You've done so much for me. I'm so thankful. Let's just pass on this and maybe make this more about the earth and connecting with nature, because really I wanted to be positive, and that's what I loved anyways, and I knew was healing.
Right.
And it went more along just describing the power of grounding and connecting to the earth, the vibration, the quantum field, and embedding the story in there. So,
and it is so important. And I can't remember exactly when I had this realization, but I started Highrise living probably back in 2005 after I left my husband at the time. And I loved it because it was a little oasis in the sky, and I could disconnect from what was happening on the ground as far as the people were concerned, but connect in such a bigger way with New York City and the view that I had. And so I had this really interesting experience, but over time, and then I moved to Singapore, and I was on the 42nd floor in the East Coast of America, and then I was on the 32nd floor, I think it was in Singapore. But I was having all these health issues, and I couldn't quite figure it out. And I don't know what it was that I said to my dad, he was a professor of science at one point in his life. He ended up finding these grounding. It's exactly what you talk about in your documentary. Basically you're plugging it in to the outlet. But ironically and weirdly, I didn't ever use them. Like, I got them. I knew that I should use them, and I knew that I needed to get energy from the earth, living up high off. So I'm not against high-rise living. I'm just saying we have to appreciate the importance as a human of being connected to planet Earth. And then I came to Bali, and then Bali just took me in, and that's just, Mother Nature at its finest, sort of I don't know if I would say reprogramming, but, reconnecting the dots for our body and just really bringing us back to whole. So it was interesting. And then when I saw your documentary, I was like, oh my goodness, this makes all the sense in the world. But it was, how my dad thought to send me that, living in a high rise, I don't know, but he was obviously onto something, and very intuitive as well, because he didn't know anything about earthing as we're talking about it today. So interesting tidbits how we learn these things. But so you've done the documentary, and then what happens after that?
After the documentary, by the way, I got to share that with you about the high-rise buildings. I understand that. There is something magical upon just being up that high and feeling expansive, right?
Yeah.
And that's a vibration in itself, but the earthing stuff can really help with that. After the documentary, basically, I'm at this point too where I'm just still so happy to be alive. And I know I have this like little purpose and mission to help people. But at the same time, I'm kind of just like, hey, I just want to live my life. And I just want to be simple. And in a way, coming out of the hospital, by the way, I had pretty much given away all my money. I literally gave it all. I wanted to start completely at zero, like new body, new health, no money, nothing, And I wanted nothing more than a simple life and to be in nature. So I wanted to get back to that. And, the movie had me kind of just traveling all over the place, from Sedona to Alaska to this place, that, and I was starting to get a little bit depleted. So I kind of just followed my passion, which at the time was going deeper spiritually, but also traveling even more so. And I have this little thing where a common thread, and I think you sense this too, and this is what I love about it, is you trust your intuition really well.
Yep. Got to do that.
Yeah. I mean, it takes enormous faith to, just, hey, I'm going to go live in Bali. I'm going to change my whole life. I'm going to get out of the States, but you did it.
Yep. And
with the shop you created and everything else. So my intuition was do this. And I said, I'm going to follow it. And that's how I live my life, is like sheerly intuition based.
It's a beautiful place to be. It's not always the easiest place to get, but it can be. But yes, so I love it. Yes. So you really moved into this trusting, but you've been kind of all around the country with the documentary, and you're feeling a little bit depleted. And so then what do you do after that? Because that was 2014, 2015 that you were running around?
Yeah,
with that?
Around that time. And there was all these opportunities to kind of go big with it, to make more money, to become, build a brand and everything else like that, start even podcasting back then and stuff. And I'm like, that's not really where I'm at. And that's great. And I know I can do this, but I just want to be simple. I just want to check out from that. To me, the most sacred thing was, not having to look at my cell phone for a few days.
Yeah.
Or, staying in a 2-hour meditation and not having something to go rush to or go do and everything. I was still detoxing a lifestyle of New York and stress and everything. You know what I mean, right?
Yeah, I do. But now knowing what you know, and there's a lot of listeners out there that are either in the crazy, or they're coming out of the crazy, or they're just simply searching for another way. How do you guide people to tap in to this earthing? And what do you recommend people do?
Yeah. Simple thing. It's just so simple. It's ridiculously easy. First things first, get your bare feet on the ground, as much as you can. I mean, everywhere I go, everything I do, whether I'm in the car for, an hour or two, I'm driving somewhere, I will pull off at a rest stop every time. And I'll even get in a push-up pose and just get my hands, even at a rest stop, in that dirty, just to connect with the earth.
Yeah.
Or touch a tree or grab a faucet or anything. And I make sure now, I'm even talking to you now, I'm grounded. I'm connected through the cord. I moved to Baden-Baden, Germany, because I wanted more nature, and I wanted to sit in the thermal waters every day. And in Bali, you get tons of nature. Do you walk barefoot?
I do. And I have a question about that, because I love to walk barefoot in the sense of grounding and earthing. But I also have this little bit of a fear about parasites in the ground because it's not exactly like the cleanest everywhere. Well, how do I overcome that fear?
Well, first, we're
talking about third world countries. We're not talking about a pristine park.
Right. I mean, first, it's always like you overcome fear with what? Love. So love yourself in the moment for having fear. Be like, oh, I'm human, great, and everything else like that. And then, ask yourself intuitively, well, does it resonate with me to put my feet in this grass? Is there a reality here physically that I can get worms? And you know what? There is, because when I was on Bali, people told me I was walking around barefoot, and lots of people come up to me and say, hey, you can actually get these worms and everything else. I'm like, okay, I won't do that. So this is why there's sandals out there, flip-flops that you can wear that will connect you and stuff like that. So you nailed it. I mean, in third world countries, it's definitely a little bit tough, and there's a great company out there, Plugs, Earth Runners, is there too. But I really like Plugs, and they make these products so that you can wear the shoes that have these special carbon fiber components that keep you connected.
I really like that. But because we're kind of coming down to the end of the show, I want to touch on a few things, because there are going to be some, I'm a believer, no doubt, but there's going to be some naysayers that say, is this just like one of those tree hugging guys that's like just gone way too far with this? So like, what's some of the like more scientific data points that might help people understand that this actually makes a difference in people's energy bodies, ultimately resulting in their physical vehicle?
We're in this magic era right now of bringing science to spirituality. This is what's so cool about 2018 and moving on, and all the movement with nutrition and everything, right? And neuroplasticity is we're getting these studies that are showing at a quantum level there are changes. Wow. So for grounding, gosh, there's at least over 50 to 100 studies showing what it does to the body, how it can reduce inflammation, increase endothelial function, heart rate variability, you name it. Yeah. And this is what I love it when a new study's done. But of course, it's like, well, who's funding these things? Where's the money coming from to talk about nature? It's like you don't see the commercials for vegetables because it's not, it's the machine behind the whole process. So yeah, I understand what people can say. Hey, this guy's da-da-da-da. And there is this element where you need to this is where you take your power and do your own research. If there's something that's questioning, let me look at this myself, but let me try it and just see how I feel. So I think it's being open too. And also I definitely recommend questioning everything and saying, okay, but how does it resonate with me? But real quick, I mean, when you touch the earth, you're connecting with that Schumann frequency, 7.83 hertz, right? And there's multiple octaves of this. And we are energetic beings at a core level. We're energy, in the simulation.
Yeah.
And we need these frequencies to rebalance, reharmonize, and actually that's the matrix that's doing its thing. We can't see this mathematical field. We can't with our five senses, but it is there, and it is part of the way it operates through us. So
I love it. I love what you're doing, and I can't wait for your message to go even bigger and broader, although it's already been out there in a big, big way. But you have a book coming, I think, right?
Working on it. You bet.
Okay. All right. I'm going to be pushing for that because I think the book definitely needs to come out. How else can people follow you and learn more about this? Where should they go?
I would say go to Grounded.com to learn. We've put up a great site with just information, everything else like that. Me personally, like I talked before, I've never had a Facebook account my entire life. I don't really want one. I like to be a little bit disconnected from technology, and that's how I am personally. But that's why I've created these sites where people can go and just learn information. The only thing I do is Instagram, honest to gosh, just a little bit here and there. And
what's your Instagram account?
It's Free Spirit Wine.
Free Spirit Wine. And then, so they can go to grounding.com. They can get lots of information. I love that. And then I thought I heard you say something about doing retreats. Are you doing actual retreats on this topic, or is it a different topic?
Yeah. So I just started doing that creating health and retreats in Europe with travel, which is another one of my passions,
Yeah.
And getting in the thermal waters, letting nature heal you on so many levels, and discussing it, talking about it, from nutrition to everything else, to breathing, to all the right things, I like to say, including the right thinking,
Yeah.
My website, stepsinatra.com, has a few of these trips, and you can see a lot more there as well.
Okay. Wow. Well, I love that. And I might have to call on you because I'm going to be going back to the US for an extended period of time, pollinating the planet with love. And it has crossed my mind that I won't be surrounded by this jungle bliss, and my energetic fields will be a little bit different, especially when I'm in New York City. And I'm also really interested to see how my dog reacts to all of these energetic changes as well. But yeah, so I might have to call you and say, what am I supposed to do?
And I'm doing a digital detox retreat. You'll check your cell phone at the door and everything else like that. So if you ever get a little bit saturated in the city, which I love and has awesome crystalline energy underneath, you can always escape and get out. So
yeah. Well, all right. We're almost down to the end, and I've got a few more announcements that I have to make. But before I do that, is there anything in closing, any tips or anything that you want to shout out to the listeners?
I just want to say, anything is possible, and you can create anything with your mind. It's a message I love to share and empower that. And one of the best ways to start there is just with gratitude. And, when we give, we actually receive more. It's this beautiful law.
Yeah.
I think the reason what I like to do is because the whole, let's say, law of attraction and field, which is we've all been into in a way, it's really just tailored in the US about money. And that's great. That gets people a lot of things. It can get you freedom and get you learnings and everything else like that. But there's really nobody out there talking about health and getting better when you're sick. And I just want to help people who are sick because I've been there. I've been there so bad. Even other, once again in my life too. And it's really, really tough, especially if your brain's not working, if things aren't happening and you lose the faith and the trust, but you can do it.
Yeah.
And,
well, I'm going to just build on that really quick and then I got to close out the show. But I think at the end of the day, whether you're sick or you're not sick, you think you're sick, you don't know if you're sick, it's all about raising your vibration. And that's what earthing is. And when we raise our vibration, we go into a whole nother level of consciousness. Life becomes magical. The intuitive risks become easier. So yeah, I think it's great advice. And I can't wait for more people to learn more about earthing because as you said, it's heal for free. So, okay. With that said, I also had mentioned earlier that we have a mini mantra word bar necklace. There's many of them. I think that one in particular, that I am grounded, I am present, my heart is open. Bliss is a perfect one for the listeners on this show, but there's many, many more. And there's a $15 off coupon if you use the code #earthing. So #earthing, you get $15 off. All right. Thank you, Step, for today. This was wonderful. And thank you to all the listeners for joining in on the Beth Bell Radio Show. I look forward to having you next week. And until then, wishing you bliss so that you too can help in pollinating the planet with love.